funny. That is really, really too funny. One of the reasons that I haven't recorded this stuff, and I'll just share this with you, finding a place to host video is crazy expensive, takes up a lot of bandwidth, and people like to share. The last time I did it, I was getting way more views from people that signed up because people was like, hey, you know, use my password. And that 1 month, it was like $1,500 in video, you know, for video. And it was just like, oh, we're not doing this again. So that's one of the reasons. I'm still working on that solution where essentially I can have it put up somewhere where you can download it and have it forever and ever. Also, moving along, because I'm not keeping y'all here all night tonight. Essentially what I've come up to, this is going to be around 30 to 35 hours worth of information, which is a lot. And hopefully it will set you up to be more successful, because one of the reasons I'm doing this, and oh yeah, the next boot camp, for anyone that misses it, or it's not going to happen until September, because I made the decision, because how to make money with estate, garage sales, and blah, blah, blah is coming out. And I also wrote another book. I'm really getting deep in writing, and you know, I had to make a choice. It was either to continue to do this or to continue to work on my writing, because it was getting to the point where I had to make a decision. So the boot camps are going to probably be like every quarter, because it does take a lot. And also, there was some confusion about the boot camp and what are you getting. For $99.95, you're getting the boot camp and the digital versions of the new book, which is, you know, that's what this boot camp's about. You're also going to get a boot camp for Craigslist. There's going to be a new revision of Craigslist. It's going to be more information. And the Ultimate Garage Sale, it's not going to be that much. I mean, I've looked at the book, and I've looked at the book, and other than maybe a social media session, that's pretty much it. You know, it is what it is. Okay, and there's some new folks who are at the 150 mark. What you're getting is a little different. You're going to get the print versions of these books. You know, I charge more, you're going to get more. And that's kind of the difference. That's just kind of the difference, and that's it. So boot camps 1, 2, and 3, and also on the Q&As. Last week went pretty well. A lot of people enjoyed it. You know, they thought it was coming just right. Some people thought it was too much. So I'm going to adjust that a little bit as best I can, because that's the reason, like, you know, if you want to do some stuff on your weekends, and there's going to be more activity, more, when I send you something, it's like do X, Y, and Z. And when we get to the session of how to locate storage auctions, because I will touch on that briefly, there's this big noise about using these subscription services. And I say use them once and find out where the facilities are. But my first webinar, there was one here in Atlanta that was doing it. And the lady that took her told me that I told her about storage facilities that were not on that list. I don't know if that's the case now, but based on what I saw storage facilities go through on auction week, I don't see their value other than letting you know this storage auction has this potential number of units, because once that information comes out, it starts changing. People pay that day, people pay the last minute, and I don't see a storage company. Actually, I see it being not really being detrimental, because say the storage company has 1 unit. Are they going to call you up and let you know that they have 1 unit and then this other place has 20? It's a no-brainer where you're going. So they may lie to you. I've had that happen to me. So, you know, just my thoughts. But we're going to get really deep on that, because that's a crucial part of the business. Okay. And essentially, I didn't get any emails at bootcamp@storageauctionguru.com. So I don't know if it was too easy or whatever. But if you have any questions during the week, you can email them to that address. You know, and I will, because if you notice, some of you know, I'm actually being able to respond to emails much faster than I used to, because I've cut down on a lot of things. Like if you're not a friend of mine on YouTube, you can't even message me. That cut down like 50% of the emails right there. And I'm still weeding them down so I can devote more energy and time to the people who are actually real serious about this. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to open up the questions. Yeah, so we can do Q&A right now. Here's one from Melissa. Will all the webinars be on the new websites? I'm in the process of trying to figure that out because this is the reason. Don't know if you know this, but there's been 3 websites that I've had to send C&D letters, cease and desist, because they had plagiarized my stuff. I understand we live in a digital age and people want to share, but to be blunt, I'm tired of people stealing my shit. And if I put it on the website, people are going to share it. I'm under no illusion that that's not going to happen. Even the folks who paid a lot of money, they're still going to share it, their password to a friend, an uncle, someone. Then they're going to pass that password on, and that irks me. Don't know how to actually get around that, but essentially what I will do is be more available for questions and answering those things, because essentially I want to change the webinar format a little bit better, and I may have to use another company, because essentially what happens is you send me a question and I answer it, and I would like more engagement. So I'm trying to figure that out. But at this juncture, the plan is to put the actual Q&A sessions somewhere where you can download them, where they'll just be on your computer. And I haven't, that right there, that's a challenge, because with video, it's very heavy in terms of information and uploading and stuff. Like some of my YouTube videos, they take an hour to upload and they're compressed. When I first started, some of my YouTube videos, and they were much shorter, took 3 and 4 hours. Things have gotten much better in the last 3 years, but that's a challenge, but I'm still working on it. Summer heat's a beat down. Okay. All right, here's a question from Michael. Wait a minute, is that one question or 2? Okay, 1. How did you run things from your warehouse? For example, did you just open to the public on weekends and do storage auction buy and loading during the week? Okay, I had a partner. I always say, I should stress that, from day one in the storage auction business, I had help. Competent, great, wonderful help. Makes a huge difference. So it was never ever just me. So both those things happen. And I'll just walk you through the story real quick. We started off in the Lithonia flea market, and essentially after the garage sale, because the garage sale was nice. And I should tell you, we were still doing garage sales, and we had stuff at the Lithonia flea market, because it was like, I just saw the potential that this business could support 2 households. And that's what we did, because we would have a garage sale. I'll just tell the whole thing. We'll have a garage sale at my house. Then we'll have one at her house. Then we would rotate, and we both got narked on. But we had moved to the flea market already. And it's just when we got narked on, we went ahead and started getting booths. Like at one point, it was kind of crazy. There was a booth being rented like every other week. It's like someone would leave, we'll get that booth, and booths are over here, booths are over here. And then slowly but surely, we were able to arrange booths where we had 15 booths back to back. There was a wall down the middle, and there was 7 booths over here, and there was 8 booths over, well, 7 booths over here and 1 in the corner. So I always was selling and buying. With the warehouse situation, after we went from the flea market to 2 different storefronts that were honestly okay. If we were not vigorously selling online and marketing online, we would have been in trouble a long time ago, because when you have a store, you can market, you can have sales, but you're so dependent upon the traffic coming in that if you don't know how to market, it's little wonder so many stores close. Because when I walk around and I go to malls, I can just tell, because these people are not marketers. That's one of the biggest things. If I can't stress this enough, you're going to have to market just as hard as you buy and work, because you get a great unit. And I did a video. Buying is easy. This is the other stuff. This is the other 90%, marketing, the right price, customer management. So we did that. So when I was at auctions, because that my role was logistics, acquisition, labor, and marketing, and my partner handled everything else. So when I was at auctions, people would call from Craigslist, and the cool thing about the warehouse, there was other businesses, so she was never there alone. During daytime hours, she would meet people, and then we get to a point where we had employees there, so she was always there by herself. So I was always buying 6 days a week. 5 to 6 days a week, I was somewhere at someone's auction, even if I didn't buy, because just from opportunity to be out there. And on the warehouse, let's talk about that. My lease said I could do certain things. There were other businesses there, but it specifically said I could not run a retail business. The type of businesses, like if I sold something online, they could come pick it up. I did that, and I kind of pushed it a little bit because they would come pick it up, and I would advertise the garage sale on Saturday, sometimes Friday, but mostly Saturday, because code enforcement people, they were off. They just completely took off. Never had to worry about them. And some Saturdays, the first Saturdays were kind of brutal. $200. I mean, we would make $400 or $500 in an hour on eBay, and we were all there all day and made $200. But it was a grooming process. And my partner looked at me and I said, "Look, we just got to keep going, keep going." And around week 6, 8, it picked up, and then from there it started walking. From there it started running. This was not an overnight thing. It took a while, but once again, we were selling on Craigslist, we were selling on eBay, we were selling on Amazon. 7 days a week, money was coming into the business. That helps out tremendously. So yeah, all of that stuff was going on all the time. Buying, loading. Sometimes I would go to an auction on Saturday and take the truck with me, and if I could load up the unit, I would bring it back, because there was 4 phases to the garage sale. People come first thing in the morning. It would be a lull. They'll come in lunch. Then it would kind of peter out, another group around 3. But strange enough, between 3 and 5, it would be kind of slow. But if I came back and was pulling stuff off at 5, people would show up between 5 and 7. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, that's what was happening. Hopefully that answered all that. Is there any chance we can get it on DVD? I'm actually thinking about that. I thought about that. Before this is over, I'm going to figure all that out. Let's see. Okay, blog TV channel. Let me talk about that. From doing the webinar, currently I'm working 7 days a week. Writing, producing videos, and doing this. And the hustler mindset was a bit much, because that was going to be 2 nights, 2 really long days. And after I finish up this and get a better handle on stuff, the hustler mindset will come back. And actually, you bring up a good question. The hustler mindset is going to be a book before the end of the year. When I say that I've been really writing a lot, I haven't been kidding. I mean, I've got 3 books that are kind of like in process. One's done. I'm just waiting on my editor to kick it back. And another one, about, it's like, most of them are like, they're like 90, 70, and 60% finished. But they're coming out this year. So the hustler mindset, no, that's going to be a webinar. It's going to be a webinar. I should tell you that. So that's why the poor blog TV channel kind of got kicked to the curb. I mean, I'm going to bring it back at some point. I can't say when, but once I do this, because, this takes priority. Oh, good question by James. That last question was by Chris. When a storage facility puts up a unit for auction and the unit goes for more than what was owed by the delinquent owner, does the overage of money go to the storage unit business, or does it go back to the person that rented the unit? The answer to that is it depends. Legally, the money is supposed to go back to the tenant. However, I will give you the case of public storage. Public storage policy is the tenant must submit a letter and request the overage. However, most tenants have no idea what their units went for. So there's been a lot of tenants, especially now, if they, that's a great video. That's a wonderful video. Thanks. I'm going to do that. Let me write that down, because a whole bunch of tenants got stiffed. Just be straight up about it. Tenants should get overage. Write that down. That's excellent. But legally, they should get the excess proceeds. But in many cases, they don't. Public storage has this fund, and after X amount of months, they don't submit the request, they get to keep the money. And public storage has kept a lot of that money over the years. A lot. All right, this is from Michael. What numbers, metrics did you keep track of? You sent us the generic P&L word template, but I was wondering if you could send what you use for business. Sheet of paper, an Excel spreadsheet. Part of that is my partner was an accountant. She had a degree in accounting and was a controller for a company for many years. So she did all that. I gave her, the numbers of how much a unit cost, and she did all that stuff. So, but that's why, let's talk about that. On accounting, I'm real hesitant to give out accounting and legal and tax advice for some serious reasons. Where you are determines what may happen with you for tax. And if anyone tells you that the same thing applies across the board, they don't know what they're talking about. In every state and every city, there's like a different nuance that can screw you if you don't have the right tax people behind you. So I say pay the money and get yourself a good bookkeeper, a good accountant, a good tax person, because what worked for me and what I did could get you in trouble where you are. Because I was, as you can tell, I was kind of like, I would walk on the edge, and sometimes when no one was looking, I crossed that line, and I'm not going to sit there and say, this is what you should do, when I know that a lot of stuff I was so borderline, because, I'm not as risk adverse as to most people. I'm not going to put you in that position. My advice on that is, I will break down that question a little bit more, but my advice on that is get yourself competent tax help as soon as you start making money and keep great records. Because I will say this, if you are unemployed and you have a spouse that works and you get in this business, the right tax person can offset your spouse's taxes so much with this business that you're going to get killer refund every year. If you do it right, and I'm not talking about lying, I'm not talking about cheating, I'm just talking about keeping great records. But essentially, the big things I kept track of was how much I spent on units, fuel, and labor. Those were the biggest metrics because, I'll give you an example. Say I just lost my mind and bought a lot of units, and I loaded a lot of units. As you know, if you're in the business, you tend to acquire this stuff much faster than you sell it. And there was a ratio that I developed for our business. Is just when we got to a certain number, I knew things weren't going to go well, because that was one of the reasons for moving to a larger warehouse. You could only sell so much small things so quickly. There is, and I didn't realize this until after I got the business, but there's a metric that the most successful retail operations use, and they have to have a certain percentage of floor space to be successful. It's part of their business plan. They can't, like, if you ever notice that you'll see a certain store, it's always in a certain size building. Like, Publix, grocery stores, there's the similar size. You'll see Target, there's like a regular Target, then there's a super Target. There's a reason for that, because I was reading in the business book, and I can't remember which one, that if you don't have enough floor space, it's hard to make your numbers, because you're going to sell 20-30% of what you have on the floor. So the more stuff you have on the floor, the more stuff you're going to sell. It took me a minute to wrap my head around that. But yeah, and also on my stuff, so far I'm in good stead with the IRS, and I'm not really going to put out too much personal stuff, just to be frank about it, because I'm kind of like, I had issues with them before, and it doesn't take much to start that dragon again. Marcus Long, whatever happened to the pay site? All right, Marcus, all right, let's talk about this. People are not watching the videos. I put that information out and I actually sent an email out. The pay site is going to go live August 15th. And part of this whole deal was the pay site and the webinars. I put out an email and I sent it out. We're going to do the webinar first because my website designer was screwing me. So that's what's happened to the pay site. I had to hire someone else, and once we're done with the webinars, we're going to move off into that, which is going to be more information. And I got a question. I've sent out emails, and today I got a flood of emails because people wanted to get in and they weren't getting stuff. If you bought something from me and you use one email address, but you get your email at another address, because I'm going in, because today I went through and I was going through emails and I noticed that, you know, there were people in my Outlook book, well, not Outlook, I use Map, you know, my address book. They had 2 and 3 different email addresses, and someone sent me something and I knew because I put his information in the address book, and what he sent me, the email address he sent me asking why I wasn't getting emails, was totally different from the email that he bought the products. We use the email address that you bought your products with. That's the email address we use. And if you stop using it or changing it, that's why you haven't been getting any stuff. And I see a lot of that. I need to do a video about that. One more thing. All right. This is from Shannon. I read the 4th of July book you put out, and I really liked the story of the guy that lived in an apartment and he didn't have space or a lot of money. I don't have space to put any furniture or really big things in my house, but my basement is full of eBay and Amazon stuff. Should I do the same things he did, rent out a unit just for space, then eventually rent a warehouse? I'm 18. Whoa. Okay. Let's take some steps here. You have to do what's comfortable for you, because when you get to the point of renting, you know, renting a storage unit is pretty, to me, risk-free because it's month to month and you don't have to lock yourself in forever and ever. What this gentleman did, because he was one of my early webinar people and he told me a story, I was just like, dude, you don't have enough space, because he lived in a walked up, you know, an apartment. So he had, at one point, 6 storage units rented and he was selling out of storage units. Long story short, for you, before you, essentially, if you buy a storage unit that's kind of close to your house, I would say, you know, when you buy it at auction, rent it and sell out of it and work out of it, because getting a warehouse is going to be expensive on more ends than you want right now. I would say keep doing what you're doing and just kind of move into it. Like, you get your unit and you can't store the furniture, just sell the furniture where it is, out that storage unit. And you're 18? Wow, that's incredible. Let's see, from Pauline. TechCrunch. Want to broadcast live on YouTube, you need a Google account for that. I already can do the Google broadcast because, you know, all partners get that. But the thing is, I have to look into it because when you do the broadcast, it hits everybody on your sub list. And I actually thought about, I don't know if they will let me do it, but creating a separate account just for webinar people. Because, you know, I mean, seriously, I think what I get out of YouTube is incredible and it costs me nothing. Actually, it makes me money. That's even more incredible. But let's see if I can copy that. You know what? No, let's just copy it, because if I hit Google, it's going to go into Google. All right, I have to look into that. Thanks. That was from Pauline. All right, this one's from Robert. Several auctions I've attended had the locks removed before any buyers arrived. In your experience, what percentage have the manager removed good items? It's always good show, Bob Davidson. Thanks. I'll tell you the story of Lockboy. I don't know if you read the blog before it came down, but this guy named Michael, he was a manager at SugarArt, which was bought out by Public Storage. It was rumored that he went through the units to the point that that's one of the reasons he came on the auction trail. If I had to peg it at a percentage, because some places are worse. Here, Public Storage was the best in terms because they had a process, and it wasn't foolproof because they had issues and they would fire the person. But I'm going to say larger chains, about 5 to 10%. Smaller chains, 20 to 25%. That's how bad it was. That's why I usually went with the bigger chains. You can get a smaller property and not have their problems, but you have to go and get a feel. But yeah, somewhere around that. No problem. I will tell you something. This was from Michael. Did you ever sell anything at Gallery 63 in Atlanta? I only asked because I like the show and I know you live there. I was actually approached by the producers, but they didn't like the stuff that I presented. They wanted me to sell like some really cool stuff, and I was like, I'm not doing that because I knew if I held on long enough, I would get what I wanted, that I did. But they were looking for more splashy, crazy stuff. So yeah, I got an invite, but it never happened. Let's see. Okay, that was it for the questions. Anything else? Let's see. Let me go through these again. Okay. Okay, so yeah. All right, well, that looks like it's it for the questions. I will say this. Essentially, what I'm trying to do with this book is give you as much information as possible. And for the new people, because there's some new people here, that's exactly what this webinar is. This webinar is how to be successful in the storage auction business since the TV show's premiere. Yeah, I finally came up with the title. And essentially, I'm going into things that I never went into on YouTube or just kind of touched. One thing I was thinking about, like when we get to the acquiring information section, one of the things that trips up a lot of people is they think it's just go to an auction, buy some stuff, then sell it. Sometimes what you do before the auction even happens is more important than what you get, because I'm a data junkie and I work for two companies that were sales-driven organizations, and that's where my philosophy comes from. You have to really think, like, I'll give you an example. Say you go out to a unit, you have say you go to an auction, you have a pocket full of money, but you don't have a store, you don't have an eBay account, you don't have an Amazon account, and you're not really familiar with Craigslist. The chances you failing are very great because you may be smart, you may be a go-getter, but you have no infrastructure. And one of the things I learned is your buying is predicated by your infrastructure. If you have no infrastructure, you're going to buy yourself into a hole real quick, and you're going to struggle to sell because you want to go to the auctions and acquire other stuff, but you need to sell this stuff. And that's why I'm doing this slowly to kind of make people take their time and actually absorb the information, because I saw it on YouTube, I saw it in groups that people I know bought the books would ask questions that were covered in the book, and I was just like, they're not reading it. What is that? And that was like, So this is my, humble attempt to solve that situation. Oh, and also speaking of eBay, I am in a really, really tough situation with eBay. I want to say, don't put your stuff on eBay because of the massive changes and the way they're screwing a lot of people. I get emails, when I go through my old stack, I get emails all the time. It's just like, this happened to me on eBay. And people are not really doing anything. They're just selling a lot of stuff. I mean, it doesn't take much. And it's a struggle because everyone here knows how I feel about eBay and PayPal. But the reality is, you're not going to sell some Salad Master pot handles at a garage sale or a flea market for the same money you're going to get on eBay. And I'm going to totally remodify that section about eBay because unfortunately, based on what PayPal and eBay are doing, you're better off just putting what I'm going to call mid-grade items on eBay. You know, things that you can't sell, and just really work on, you know, developing your own flea market, Craigslist, because it's insane. And I know the pain of having a lot of money held, and someone's like, look, we don't care what you say. You can't have this money, and we're just going to keep it. And, you know, you just keep beating your head up against the wall. It's a very, very frustrating experience, and a lot of people that's starting to happen to. So, you know, I put in the book, don't open up an eBay store. There's some people who did, and they were successful. You know, kudos to you. But my stance on eBay is it's just a necessary evil, and you got to be careful. And I'm really trying to figure out a way, because I got so frustrated with it, and I wasn't going through what many of you are going through, that I went out and found these people to sell, because I didn't want to deal with the emails. I didn't want to deal with the nut house. I just wanted them to sell, and, you know, I had 5 filters of people selling that stuff. And slowly but surely that came apart, because when we were forced out the business, I couldn't supply them any more stuff. I couldn't go to auctions. Well, talking about that, the section about health that I sent out, the last one, that's no joke. That is really, really no joke. Because, you know, I put in there because, you know, I've been in the hospital twice for that stuff. And that's another reason that I am not going back out there, because, you know, it's just a very physically demanding job the way that I did it. When you really have to take care of your health. I mean, that is super, super important. All right, here's a question. This is from Lewis. I want to learn how to spot the good quality furniture from the bootleg furniture. Are there any books, anything else out there that can help me with this? I bought a unit that the furniture looks solid and real nice. I had to sand the top of one of the nightstands. When I was sanding it, I could feel the wood had like separated like a bugle. With a little piece of the wood came off, and I could see that like particle board. So it wasn't even solid like I thought it was. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna tell you about that. And this is totally going to the side. Believe it or not, a lot of brand name furniture that you think is solid wood, it's not. It's called modified MDF. Essentially, it has a wood veneer wrapped around a particle board core. You know, essentially what you experience. And Haverty's has it. Rooms to Go, mostly their stuff's like that. Crate and Barrel, a lot of these places have that stuff because it's easy and cheaper to manufacture. This is what I'm going to tell you with the furniture thing. People, and this is something that I experienced. So people, there's a small group of people that's going to pay a lot of money for high quality furniture. A very small group of people. So essentially, when you get furniture like that in the future, and it's like, essentially, I should give you some signs. If you turn it over and there's no name on it, it was made in China. Usually there's going to be a sticker on the import in China. If there's no name, and typically it's really strange what happens with solid wood furniture. Either it's going to be heavy as crap or it's going to be light, really, really light. Usually those stuff's going to be very heavy and the newer stuff's going to be pretty light. But if there's no name on it, you can't figure out what it is. And your finer furniture, except for antiques, will have a name on it somewhere. It may be a label affixed in a drawer. It's going to have a name on it. If it doesn't have a name on it, go on Craigslist and see what comparable stuff is selling for and price it at that and just sell it. Only fix furniture if you have to sell it. You know, don't invest a lot of time in it if you don't have to, because sometimes it is what it is. I've had bedroom sets that were just if I could just make them 10% better, I can get more money, but you have to look at your time. And unfortunately, all I can say, you know, if you have another nightstand, just sell it as is. You know, people will buy that stuff. You're not going to get a lot, but trying to look at a room and saying, hey, that's high-end furniture, it's going to be very daunting, because I myself have been fooled once I dragged it out into the light of day. I mean, it can look, there's a lot of repos out there. One of the most common styles is a Queen Anne style, and you've seen it. It's that one with the curved legs, and like when I did that video of Mo, and I'm gonna tell you something about that in a minute. If you get a Henry Dunn piece like that, it's gonna be, or Stickley, you might be able to make a little change on it. But most of what you're gonna come across in these units, about 70–80% is gonna be Chinese imports. So just blow it out. Now, I didn't put this on YouTube, but A&E is unhappy with me. If you remember, there was a episode, Storage Wars Season 1, where I liked it. I just put it up. I'm surprised it stayed as long as it did. I didn't put any ads on it because I couldn't. But they had me take that down. So, because I was pointing out flaws of their stuff. So I took down Mo because I knew sooner or later it was coming. But I was going to start showing you what not to do, but they kind of put that to an end. I may do that on another channel, but they're definitely gunning for me. This is from Marcus. With Amazon, is it better to send them everything and let them deal with shipping, etc., or process everything yourself from your home? I can't make that decision from you. You've got to weigh it out based on your lifestyle. There's a guy on YouTube, Chris Anderson. He does Amazon FBA. He wrote a book about it. He's happy with it. He was doing like, I think, 6–7,000 a month. But just on my personality, I wouldn't do it because Amazon, and in 5 years, Amazon is going to go the way of eBay. You already see signs. There won't be as much mistrust as there is for eBay, but as a vendor or someone selling on the platform, the screwing's coming. The screwing's coming. So you really got to do a lot of research on that. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, because, I mean, seriously, you go out and you source products, you send it to them and they sell it. It's just like you do nothing other than the original work. I mean, it sounds wonderful. But I would do a lot more research on that, because if you don't have a lot of free time and you want to make some extra money, I mean, it's kind of the best way to go. But I'm a little leery just based on my experiences with eBay, and I've had some with Amazon as a publisher, because they had to redo a report 1 month because for some reason 50 sales weren't put on the report. Because, and I should say, whenever you buy something from me on Amazon, I don't know who you are. I may get like, this book was sold and that was it. Other than that, they, it's their business. I get nothing. Okay, this is from Jason. What about setting up your own website? I highly, highly recommend that, because this is the thing that a lot of folks don't understand. You're going to have to do a great deal of your own marketing, so you might as well direct it to your own website. Definitely. Definitely, there will be a lot about that in the book. That's also in the current edition too. Have you heard of onlineauctions.com? They left eBay, from Chris. I've never heard of them, but I will tell you this. There were some heavy hitters, Barberland Liquidations. I don't know if Monster Pond is still on there. But essentially, everyone that I used to model and try to emulate because they were really successful on eBay, they're all gone. With eBay, there is a ceiling that you're going to hit where you just can't make any more money. And it's, I don't know, I can't say it's purpose. They did it on purpose, but it happens. And Bargainland Liquidation was like the first titanium seller. The guy had a warehouse. He's just blowing out stuff. And for years, he was selling crap, but cheap crap. Everything was a 99-cent auction, and he was making, his volume was so high, he was making money. But with this, he got a lot of negs, but this went on for years. Then one day they just pulled the plug on the guy, and he wasn't doing anything different. If I can find his information, I'll do a video about that. But if you do eBay, you have to realize it's their business, and you're just part of their business, and they're not your customers, they're eBay's customers, which is one of the reasons that it's very challenging to try to communicate with people. You used to be able, you could email people, you could do all kinds of stuff. They cut all that out because a lot of people were doing side deals. Michael, how much does the storage locker contest end? I just want to know if there's more to it than meets the eye. That ends the 19th, because I will tell you, a member of the group on my group on Facebook, he bought it, and it just cracked me up. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a contest on this, because I did a screenshot of his original post, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, that ends the 19th. All right, this is from Pauline. Did you have any success with medical equipment, hospital beds, special mattress pads, exerciser, bathtub lift, that sort of thing? I've sold a few pieces on Craigslist, but still have some left. Any suggestions or other selling channels? Okay, this is probably one of the hardest items that you can get. Most of it depends upon how old it is. If it's pretty new, you can sell it really easy. If it's old, because there's so many stipulations with medical equipment. If you have a hospital bed that's in pretty good condition and looks pretty good, one of the things you can do, because they've kind of cropped up, is there's a lot of people who've bought houses and they have, actually that won't work because these guys have to go through an inspection. And eBay used to be good for that type of stuff, but they've really clamped down because you're only supposed to sell to a doctor. But I would say keep doing what you're doing. Put it on Craigslist, and know that any competent medical professional is going to be very interested in how old this stuff is. It's super critical, because I got a unit. I thought I was going to get paid. Had an x-ray machine in it. Looked it up. That sucker was $80,000. Couldn't sell it. It was a recall item. I was pissed. Fortunately, I didn't pay a lot for it, but it was just like, oh, 80 grand. Even if I just get 20, yeah. That sucker was on recall. That's why I was in the unit. Medical equipment is a pain in the butt. I mean, if you hit good. Oh, one suggestion. Go online. There are companies who resell medical equipment, use medical equipment. They're kind of probably trying to get it from you at a decent price, but those are going to be the guys who are going to know if they can sell it, if it's worth something, and to me, something's better than nothing. But that was a huge industry at one point. When listed on Craigslist with multiple accounts, do you recommend deleting or keeping the older versions of the same ad, or leave all ads? Leave them. Leave them. This is from James. Because it doesn't really matter. Once they get buried, whether you delete it or not, it just really doesn't matter. And one of the reasons I said leave it is there are eBay junkies. There are people who, there are Craigslist junkies. There are people who watch Craigslist all day long. And believe it or not, these people hate you in the beginning. They hate you. You're always posting stuff. They're looking for something. They see your ads. They may flag them. But 6-7 months, they become comfortable with you, because if you're posting that much and you're running a business, you're more trustworthy. I know it sounds really, really strange, because I had a lot of people that told me this stuff. Yeah, I saw your ads. And it's like, yeah, I thought you were a scammer, but you kept posting, you kept posting. And this went on for months. So leave your ads. That's kind of like a calling card. It doesn't really matter if you delete them or not. From Chris, I guess about that auction site. It's another auction site that charges $8 a month, unlimited listing, from what I've researched. This has been my problem with other sites other than eBay. And the only company that had a real shot at giving them competition didn't really give a damn about auctions, and that was Yahoo. Yahoo auctions in the beginning was getting sales there. It was not as many as eBay, but they had a shot, and Yahoo just like, hey, we don't care, and they just went another direction. I have not seen another site that even comes close to what eBay does on a bad day, on their best day. I would say go in there, root around, and see if people selling stuff. If they're selling stuff, put it on there. I think, oddly enough, Etsy has been the best thing to come out for selling used stuff, versus better than any other place. So, just check it out. But I've never heard of it, and I'm kind of dubious about it, but that could just be me. Oh, no problem. The Google Voice recommendation that has saved my bacon many, many times. But yeah, back to eBay. I'm getting a lot of people who are talking about that they essentially are getting like bent over by eBay on the regular. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And some of the things that you should know about Amazon, if you don't know, you can only have so many returns with Amazon, and you can only have so many bad feedback, and they will boot you. It's a ratio based on how much you sell. So if you don't sell a lot, say you sell 25 books, and then 1 month you get 3 returns or 3 negative marks, they may boot you. That's how thin it is. So that's something you have to be really careful. And Amazon is more straightforward than eBay in terms of signing up, but they're very unforgiving. So once you get booted, because I had a friend who was, that was his livelihood. That's all he did for years and years, years. He was selling like, 100 books a week. And he did something and he got booted off, and he got back on. They found out it lasted maybe 2 months. He got booted off again, and now, he's doing other stuff. But yeah, be real careful with Amazon. When you place your ads on Craigslist, do you place your handle in the ad for recognition? Actually, no. I did not, because believe it or not, people avoid those ads. I just put the item and presented the item as best I could. When I would do, like, we're going to have for the weekends in the garage sale section, I would put, the upscale garage sale and all kind of pictures and stuff. I would do that. But regular posting, just item and number, item and number. It's my experience. It could be different for someone else. People really didn't care about that. For some reason, a lot of people on Craigslist want to buy from an individual. My thoughts are it's easier to screw over an individual than a seasoned business person. That's my thought. But no, I never put that stuff there. Because all they care about is the price and the item. I could be wrong. I see a lot of people that advertise their business, and it also depends on what you're doing. Like from selling side, I see a lot of companies like car dealerships. They're selling cars. They'll put all that stuff in the multiple pictures, but I never did that. I just put the item up, and we're getting so many things, and I was posting in so many different categories on Craigslist, and also they will know who you are. Whether you put a handle or not, they'll know if you're a business or not very quickly, because the average person is just not going to be able to post that much. I mean, if you're posting a lot of stuff for 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to pretty much figure out you're a business. So that is where that goes. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to keep y'all here this long. Tomorrow, you're going to get another piece, and then we're going to kind of intensify, because there's going to be more, hey, you need to do this. Because when we get to the how to find the auctions and that stuff, that's going to be a little intense, because I spent maybe 20% of my time on that information. It's unforgiving. It's grunt work. It's not glamorous. You will get headaches. But by grooming your information, that enabled me to get a lot of great deals on units, because other people don't do it. And also with the subscription service, whatever information they're giving you, they're giving to everyone else. So I don't see how you can get like a complete deal. But another thing is, the auction thing is kind of dying down. It is really dying down. So for those who are in it long term, it's going to get better. Let's see. Here's a question from Elisa. I guess. Okay, Martinez. We have been in the storage auction games for 1.5 years now. We began in a 1-bedroom apartment renting a 10 by 30 unit for storage space. Now, thanks to business and on another job, we have a 4-bedroom house, and the 10 by 30, the first year we had 11,486 gross sales. 11% of profit. We bought around 30 units that year. I know that sucks, but we survived. This year we're at 32% profit at 7,000 gross retail and around 15 units bought this year. It looks like it would keep going up, and I just want you to hear at what point we are in the game to go main goal to go full time. No problem, no problem. I got the gist of that. Okay, let's really look at that. That's actually pretty good. You're actually have bought less units and you've made more money. I mean, seriously, that's you're going in the right direction. And part of that's normal because when you get into this business, this is unlike anything else that you can even think of. I mean, think about it. You wake up, you go to work, and you go out there and you can buy a room that can have a car. Well, they've cut back on cars, but in my day, you can have a car, you can have a business, you can have a logo shop. It's all over the place. I mean, I would say full time, if you can get your part-time income into the 30s, and you can get up to 30 grand, you know, doing what you're doing, yeah, that would be it. Or, now this is just my prediction. Based on what's happening, the American fascination with storage auctions is on the downside. I think we're going up and we're going down. How fast we're going to go down to normal, my prediction is we're going to be closer to normal this time next year, next summer, because the economy, I don't know, it's for some people it's getting better, for other people it's not. But as the economy gets better, there are a lot of people who are thinking about this, they're not going to do it. So, and it's also for a certain kind of person. But actually your progress is pretty good because you're doing it part-time, and you got to be really proud of yourself because you made more money and you spent less money. And you haven't bought as many units. That's just a sign of improvement. All right, this is from Ernest. What are your thoughts of the storage facility auctions versus the pods? Are they both about the same as for stuff in the units? Oh, hell no. Oh, God, I'm about to lose it. Here in Atlanta, a guy by the name of Ed, what was Ed's last name? I forget his last name, but he and his partner own the Pods Corporation. This is how pods work. You know how the whole thing is like people get on like, oh, neighborhoods, whatever. There's only going to be so many pod locations, and forget neighborhood. This location was in Forest Park, but they were receiving pods from all over Atlanta, from the north side to the south side. Some of the best units I ever got were pod units because typically the way people load these things, it's kind of hard to go through them. One unit I bought, the door came up, the lady had laced ropes all across the stuff, and there was a mattress at the door. And I had to cut the ropes to get them loose. There's no way they went through that unit. And I got a lot of scrap gold out there. I mean, actually a jewelry chest full of diamond rings and stuff. I love pods. I hear that some places they go through the units. If they go through the unit, it's got to be kind of like half full, because the way that they work is they stack these things like several stories on top of each other, and they move them around a lot. So to me, pods are way better than regular auctions. That was just my thoughts. They were much better. And a lot of people miss them. For years, there was only like 6 or 8 of us just showing up for years. And one guy actually bought a pod that had 2 Harleys in it. You couldn't see him. I was there when he was unloading them. I almost shit my pants. I was just like 2 Harleys. And they were tied in there and everything. Perfect condition. Lucky bastard. Oh, no problem. Is cool. Yeah, because you're moving in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, because they're going to open the door at the pod auction, and you're going to kind of see like the rule for pod. If they're like really, really full, you got a great shot. Even if they look like hell, because a lot of people don't understand, because pod, they tell you how to load them, but a lot of people just throw stuff in there, and when they move them on the big things, they get all messed up. And I've gotten great units. One of my friends got a unit like that because the people who loaded it didn't know how to load it. And the stuff was just kind of thrown in there, but they had put the big screen television in the middle, and they had put bags of clothes around it, and it was good. He got this thing for 50 bucks. It was a 10 by 20. 50 bucks. I mean, more money fell out of the thing when they opened it up than, he paid. So definitely, I think we're, like I said, heading in the right direction in terms of the business, because, one of the reasons, this is clear. If you didn't see the video, YouTube's going through some madness right now. I'm going to thank everyone here to subscribe, but with YouTube, they're unsubscribing active accounts. I don't know what's going on. So if you've been unsubscribed, no, it wasn't me, and please subscribe again. It's just some madness going on there. All right, I'm going to wrap it up because it's almost 10 o'clock, and I've just promised I'm not going to keep people forever and ever. And from my research, best webinars are an hour, hour and a half, with most falling between 45 and an hour. Tomorrow, you're going to get some more stuff in the evenings. There will be no stuff sent out on the weekends. I'm going to respect your weekends. I may work like a maniac, but everyone else does not do that. And it's going to be a little bit thicker, but you can kind of go at it through your own pace. And also, if you have a question during the week on any of the information, email me at bootcamp@storageauctionguru.com. That should be the email that you got your webinar invitation. And I'll answer it, and if it's like really good, I'll put it in the webinar, or I'll actually put it in the email, because I don't know if any of you have ever gone to an online class. I'm trying to have this process like that. That's the reason for only one Q&A session, because you need to be learning all of the time and stacking your information, because the way I used to do it is like there was one webinar a week. That wasn't enough. It needed to be better. I wanted to kind of just move you along and build your business and some stuff that you can use as you're out there buying, if that makes any sense. Okay, cool. All right, well, that's it. You folks have a great night, and you'll be getting some from me tomorrow. And remember, no weekends. All right, have a good one.